Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I'm back up joined again by Austin and Jake.
Hello.
What's going on, y'all?
In today's matchup is Austin versus Jake. Jake has brought the Vegeta Trunks, and Austin's brought us Cell, which is the Ultimate Cell. And these are both fantastic golden leaders from TCG Metals. Check them out, they're great friends of ours. And let's get into the video. Oh yeah, there's links in the descriptions and buttons. Click them. Guys, take it away.
Is this the first match on the channel that's a gold leader versus gold leader?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe somebody in the comments can go through the whole arc.
Well, the thing
see.
Before we get into, I guess, to the actual match, I mean, like, I've gotten a lot of metal leaders before they did golden leaders too.
Oh, true.
And then there's certain ones I'm like, I gotta get a golden version of that. You know, that looks really good.
Same.
But yeah,
my favorite. The Cell's my favorite golden leader.
Guys,
it looks really nice.
Talk about your decks. Let's get into it.
So I've played mine a few times on the channel. Y'all have seen it now. This is more modernized for the current format. I have an actual Z deck. And I run the Faded Rivals and the Gohan Rare Green. And I have some. They're supposed to be in, but the cooler promos, so it's a little more modernized for the current meta. But I still run blue-green with this just because I like the Android 21, I like the Senzu Beans. I don't have the Arrival pieces, and I don't use the blue-green 18 combo anymore. It's all just Paragus, so it's mostly...
Hello?
Austin has been having internet connections, but pretty much it's mostly a more consistent. Oh, you cut out like right there.
It's mostly.
Yeah, sorry, the video stopped. So, it's mostly just still the same besides a few changes.
I was gonna say I really like the place that your Cell deck has ended up in. You know, I was helping you test it in the early days, like when this leader was kind of first revealed before it ever came out. And I really like the way you've got it built. You know, you have the blue for, like you said, Bean and added defense, and then you just have the inevitability of that secret rare coming down. Pretty much turn 5 guaranteed. And really changes the way that you have to play against this blue-green version of Cell. And if you don't have the experience against this variant, you're just not going to be ready for some of the things it can do. Trunks Vegeta is Trunks Vegeta and hadn't changed. Added a couple new cards. Really benefited from that. I think it's an 8-drop Majin Buu that came out in Power Absorb. Mm-hmm. You can just pay 1 and cast it, and it's a big 30k double striker. That card slotted really nicely into Trunks and Vegeta, and most of the deck is pretty much unchanged. You can play the lockdown variant that I kind of played back during our Team Wars event, if you guys remember that. Or you can play this one that I've built for this weekend, which is just kind of a standard, I want to attack my opponent with cards and end the game, on turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, turn cardboard sideways.
Yeah. But also leave cardboard vertical, so you can block the cardboard that's coming sideways.
Mm-hmm. This right here, this 2-drop Unison, I love the Piccolo Unison in this deck so much. It is so fun, just because the +1 to draw is nice. You KO so much of this deck unless the entire deck has barrier. But other than that, you KO a whole lot, and you get the +5k, and then if you want to, you can get a little daring, and get dual attacks. You have a 20k dual attacker. But I mostly use this for the +1, and so I can have Dormants and Charismatics.
I mean, it slots so nicely into this, like you said, where you're just drawing and drawing and drawing, and then turning on all of your Unison-enabled cards is just kind of like an added bonus at that point. I really like this Piccolo Unison, too.
Yeah, and I really enjoy having the lead, with the leaders, you put 1 underneath and draw 2, and you +1 to draw.
Hang on, something's not right. And continue.
With the the +1 to draw, and then your leader effects, you put one underneath and draw two. It's really nice. Like the deck draws way more than it used to, and with my old variant, and it helps because even with like those 17s, those energy exhaust negators, check lands.
Yeah.
If you don't want to see them in your hand, you just put them underneath your leader. Like you can get rid of them still. Like it's really nice.
Yeah, like you don't play a ton of blue green, so all the ones you see after the first just kind of become cell food.
Really only like you want 2 blue energy for the Android 21. So once you get about 2 blue greens, you're pretty good. If you put it 21 in the energy,
Yeah.
like you don't need blue too much other than that though for this deck. You have the blue cell you play, but that only requires 1 blue energy, so you can put its chart itself and play it.
Oh yeah, that card is very solid in this list as well. And you were really smart to negate this leader swing here because knowing me, I'm gonna rip this Vegeta out from underneath my leader and try and double strike your unison.
Yep.
And unfortunately for me, I think I try to attack again here, and I think I'm under dormant. No, that's a different turn. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm familiar. I've played against Trunks and Vegeta way too much. I'm familiar of the I swing unison leader. Like
Yeah.
I would always play 1 or 2 drop unison, a +1 it, and you're like, swing unison. Double strike. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Just a good way for the deck to kind of deal with threats in the early game as far as, being able to put that 2 damage towards the opponent's leader or towards a unison. Even if you just make them combo up a little bit, it's a really nice tool to have. It is kind of more difficult to wield now that you have the Z leader mixed in with things because you can kind of just lose access to that Vegeta if you don't do things correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But the Z leader really incentivizes you to spend that +10 during the early game so you just don't lose out on the resource later.
Yeah, there's just this Trunks and Vegeta's leader is so strong. Like I already hate yellow. I really hate playing against yellow. It's my least favorite color to play against. And this deck was no exception. The best thing about this deck is you can kind of bait out the effects of the Trunks and Poutine. Yeah,
you can.
If you're not paying attention, it can really mess you up.
Yeah, you can definitely play around it.
Yeah.
But this is one of those decks where having multiple games against it really benefits you because when I first played against this deck, it was very much like Topo Lock, where you're like, how do you even beat this?
Yeah.
And then over time, you're kind of like, oh, I play small cards first and then just try and extend the game and, find ways around it.
Yeah, and one thing too with this deck, with how I've been having to play it since I got rid of the arrival stuff with the Android 16s, these turn 3 is really weird because if you don't have 3 more energy and I go first, I really can't do the faded rivals like I would like to do. And if I'm not at 4 less life, I'm still at 5 life. I can't do the Gohan, rare. So
yeah,
it's like this is the weirdest spot I found in this deck with my build is turn 3 is usually like okay, what am I doing? Do I just want to keep turn 3 as pure defensive? Because I can, I have 2 blue energy, we have beans, I have some negates, I could possibly play a blocker negate, paying 2 energy, then doing a bean the next turn, when I block the next one to get my leader 20, get some options there. But it's a weird spot that I'm not too happy with in the deck, and I'm really hoping when I get those coolers, it kind of fills it in,
Yeah, kind of helps you curve out a little bit better throughout the game. Yeah, I think you
Austin, you
ended
still
up
with us?
deciding. I don't know, but I think he ended up debating on playing that Frieza and then being like, "Yeah, I just want to be able to get through the Poutine and Trunks effect for the turn, and maybe if I need to play some kind of negate later, I can."
Yeah. I was curious about that when he went to go put it down, and you kind of mentioned the effect, but he's like, hey, he left it there. What I do like, and I think you guys talked about this afterwards, when he played uh Mafuba on you, I felt like that was a good shock.
Oh yeah, one it was a blast from the past. You know, Mafuba used to get used all the time and hasn't really been as much lately, and really throws a wrench in my game plan because with my Z leader, which is why I was kind of comboing up on attacks that didn't really matter last turn. So I think Austin picked up on that and was like, he's gonna try and go into the Z leader and then use that to restand itself and the pair. But if you don't have a pair, father son bonds card, when I say the pair is what I mean. If you don't have the pair to target with your leader, you can't use it to restand itself. And Mafuba just kind of like blanks the card from existence. So not only did he get himself out of those attacks there, but he threw a wrench in my next turn at the same time, which is what this cell deck is really good at doing at just kind of putting up a stop sign, and then when it's ready to kill you, it just deploys.
Yeah. And we talked about this during our match because we played, I think, during round two. This 8-drop Majin Buu was one that you weren't originally like a huge fan of, but you've kind of grown to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think when I initially evaluated this card, Champa and Double Strike Kai were still legal, and I felt like being able to put Double Strike anywhere for one energy was better than playing a 30k Double Strike for one energy. But now that we don't have access to those cards as much, I feel like I really undervalued this card before it came out. You know, even if Champa and Kai still existed, a 30k Double Strike for one is like on the level of like what Dark Broly was doing back in the day, and that deck was incredibly
Or
powerful.
fighting against fate. Think about that, you know.
Yeah.
That was free 25 dual attack.
Yeah, so this is kind of similarly costed. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's a one cost 10k combo, but in Trunks Vegeta, you're never going to be short on combo power, so it just slotted super nicely into this list, like I mentioned earlier.
It the one con like because we've seen a lot of bigger cards be like a 5k combo. Primarily, it's for its own engine. If you were to play in its deck, you get benefits for that, and you get that good 10k boost out of it. And that's where it comes in handy. But in any other yellow deck, it's practically in-game pressure or a charge target.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with it, but it does have its limits. It's not as good as the Double Strike Kai was back in the day.
So you're in an interesting position. You still haven't used your Vegeta, and you're going for Swing here.
Yeah.
And he negates, but you still continue applying pressure. I'm bringing this up for a reason. You talked about this interaction, about getting rid of it. I don't think you choose to.
No, I completely forgot because in my mind, I'm like, as soon as I go into the Z leader, I'm gonna lose the double strike anyway, and I just completely forget about the 10k power that it adds as well. That's one thing I kind of learned from this game is that you need to manage your under leader resource a little bit better before going ahead and procking the Z Awaken, which I do take some time to think about here. Because if you've seen Austin's cell deck before, you know that turn 5 is an incredibly powerful turn for it.
Yes.
And now that he's back, he can kind of tell you about uh, the inevitability of this blue green cell list. But yeah, it takes me forever to decide whether or not to Z Awaken here, and I thought so hard about it, I just forgot to remove the Vegeta from underneath.
It's one of those things where like I'm used to you using those for you tend to use them for unisons if they're on the board. If it's a unison, it's gonna be problematic. You'll just shotgun it with add the double strike, remove 2 markers easily. Or you'll do it like early pressure once your opponent's at 5 life to get him down to 3.
Good technique he usually does. Like I said, I'm so used to his unison hate that whenever I play against the Trunks Jake, I just don't expect my unison to stick.
Yeah, he's kept me out of the battle step with my leader as much as possible this game, which is how I kind of got to this point where I ended up Z awakening and the Vegeta's still stuck underneath.
Yeah, I played against this deck a whole lot, so at least I remember very much what your deck wants to do. But
Yeah, you go ahead.
I was gonna say with Cell Zeno, I like playing it early on the leader. Put it under there so that way people just see and they're like, oh. And it can make him either play really smart or really not smart. So
I've been meaning to ask you about that because you can play just putting Perfect Force in there, and then play Perfect Force, and then Cell Xeno afterwards. But you immediately put Cell Xeno like what turn 1 or 2, I think it was, like very early on.
Yeah, it was turn 1. It's just I like it because going successor, like I don't run a lot of charismatics because you're KOing stuff a whole lot anyways. So I run 2 charismatics, so trying to get 5 for the extra 7 for Perfect Force Cell, it's a little bit rough. So I really don't like doing that because the Gohan is 6. There's just a lot of weird numbers around it. Like you could get 2 the Perfect Force Cell within into the Zeno Cell, but I don't like it's a little clunky.
Gotcha.
I think it can also be kind of like a game management thing too. Like if I do this as soon as I see it, I don't have to think about it, and that's something I can't mess up on later in the game. Even if it gives my opponent a little bit more information than they should have.
Yeah, like there are a lot of times where I'll have a secret in my hand, I'll play a little stupid around it.
So this is an interesting interaction. For 2 days, we didn't cover it yet because we kind of talked about the Perfect Cell and whatnot. But Mafuba should be gone by now, but it hasn't came off yet. And just for timing's sake, announcing a counterplay prior to the auto going off is what should be the idea. But Jake can't play this counterplay anyways because he only has 1 Z energy. So
didn't matter much. So
yeah,
unfortunately, there's like a slight miscommunication here where I said no negates, and I think Austin interprets it as no negates, no blocks, and combos. And then we rectify it later that he ends up using this card in the drop area as part of his combo for the end of the game.
I was kind of confused. Like I had to go back to the actual audio to figure out what happened there, and there was a few seconds of like silence. I'm like, and then all of a sudden, Austin's like 45. Like I was blocking, and it's like, oh, okay.
It was a weird little spot. I was like, you gates no block, so no negates then block. I got a little thrown off personally. But one thing I did want to mention though is I like playing Mafuba meta because people don't expect Mafuba ever. It's fun to throw him off.
No, it was definitely like, having the blue engine in this deck makes that a little bit more beneficial, especially the fact that you tend to play big boys off effects, and that's very cheap when you do that.
Mafuba's just great. I feel like it's just an underrated negate at this point with so many uninteractable large battle cards running around. The fact that it doesn't say choose and gets around barrier and gets around all kind of can't be removed effects just makes it an excellent choice for blue decks, even if you think about it for the sideboard right now.
Yep. And with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind, there's buttons down below, links in the description. Check them out. Thanks for tuning in.